For Crema Media's Polity, I'm Sane Dhlamini. Researcher and analyst Professor Raymond Suttner joined me to discuss the latest column, If Zuma is staying put, what happens now? Welcome, Raymond.
Thank you.
The ANC-NEC met and Zuma is still in office, but there are conflicting evaluations of what the current balance is in the ANC. What is your view on this?
I think people must be getting a bit tired of this, because every week there's a different evaluation of this. But I think that although the NEC statement came out in support of Zuma, there were certain qualifications, and I think the ground has shifted. When I was driving here, in fact I saw it before this, Cyril Ramaphosa made a statement about so-called state capture, and Cyril Ramaphosa has been very quiet before because he's not been wanting to be seen as doing anything that can be interpreted as an attack on Zuma. So now when people raise their heads above the parapet, then it is a sign that things are changing and that the president may have been weakened. And of course, this began with the firing of Nene at the end of last year, and the consequent impact on the economy, and him more or less being forced to appoint Pravin Gordhan in his place. Something that he obviously resents, because he says that Van Rooyen, the best qualified Minister of Finance he's ever had, we've ever had, and with this ongoing warfare between the Hawks and Pravin Gordhan, SARS and Pravin Gordhan, so that there may be one step back in the case of Zuma, but he's also taking steps forward. So nothing is finalized, but I think that the fact that they have an investigation, an ANC-NEC investigation into the Guptas, equals an investigation into Zuma and his son as well. So that I think things have shifted, and it is not clear how far it will go, because when I wrote my column, I said that if Zuma goes sooner or later, and it remains that type of phraseology, I think he will go, but when it will be is not clear. And it seems to me now that it may just be that although there's a lot of people who do want to see Zuma go, they can't necessarily agree on a candidate, whereas on the side of the Zuma and his allies, they appear to want Nkosazana Dhlamini Zuma.
And how important is the economy in assessing Zuma's future?
You see, the economy, as I indicated, was very important in terms of Zuma plunging the country into huge economic problems, with potential downgrading, already being in a very, very weak economic situation, with the forecast for growth being under 1%, and usually the ultimate growth ends up being less than that from the last few years. So there is that problem, and it did lead Zuma to retreat. But there was an article I read, I think I couldn't find it, I wanted to find it before this interview. I think it was in the Sunday Independent, but I can't find it online, and I don't know what's happened to my copy. But what was argued in this article is that while business and a number of other people in the country are worried about a downgrade, Zuma and his allies are not actually concerned about us being downgraded to junk status, cost of loans being greater. what they are interested is in plundering the state. And what the consequences are for the state after that, they're not worried about that really, because they have been positioning themselves for years. All sorts of people who are connected with the Guptas are on the boards of a number of important parastatals. I mean, there's never been a situation like this. Shabir Sheikh never managed to do it, where you could get an outside private company, private business people, having people who account to them in a number of state enterprises. So if Eskom or Transnet has to make a decision about coal or whatever it is, and the Guptas have a company that is affected by this, as has been the case, they can rely on people there being supportive of what they want.
And what do you think of the influences by some of the veteran ANC to influence the course of the events?
Yeah, well, you know, there was a memorandum that was handed in to the NEC by General Superior Nyanda and a number of others. And they called for an independent commission of inquiry, and they referred to themselves as veteran officers of MK. And I think it's very important that you do have this development inside the ANC. But I would ask certain questions. One would be, when you have the signatories of a veteran petition only coming from MK, are you not privileging one part of the struggle and reinforce, and at that mainly exiled people, formerly exiled people, are you not playing into the hands of people who say that people who come from that background seem to think that the ANC is only the ANC outside, or that's the real ANC? So I think that was a tactical error on their part. Secondly, the tenor of the document keeps on referring to the glorious history of the ANC and all of this. Now, my feeling is that people who've come from the ANC background, who are veterans, need to be asking themselves whether they come from MK or wherever. Personally, I have been fully supportive of MK in the past, done what I could to assist MK activities, etc., etc. But I do believe we have to reflect and ask ourselves, if something like the Zuma phenomenon has emerged with patronage, corruption, lawlessness, and all of this, is there not something in that history, what they call the glorious history, which needs to be considered, and where we need to ask ourselves, in what way did we, wherever we were located, MK or underground, whatever it is inside the country, or UDF, is there anything that we did that made it possible or more likely that you'd have this corruption, lawlessness, and so forth emerge? I want to put it to the veterans that patronage didn't emerge for the first time now. Corruption didn't emerge for the first time now. Lawlessness didn't emerge for the first time now. When people wanted to go for scholarships, some people were able to go to certain places. Others had to go to other less prestigious places. Now that is a form of patronage. Although we recognize that the resources that could be accessed for patronage or corruption outside were much less than today. But people must be very frank and ask themselves, is there anything that we did before that made it possible for this? Like I ask myself, as a former head of political education, why is it that the people, in terms of political analysis and all this, they seem to have no clue of this. All they can do is come out with cliches and all of this. Now, these are people that, as many of them would say, they were trained by me. Now, does that not make it necessary for me to ask myself, what did I do wrong? Likewise, we all have to ask ourselves, what did the ANC do that made it possible for a departure from the greatness of Mandela, Tambo, Sisulu? Maybe also we need to, and also with Mandela, Tambo, Sisulu, Kotane, those people, we have to ask ourselves, are we not exaggerating their greatness, were there not weaknesses? But there certainly are things there that are not continued today. And I think we need to examine that, although it's welcome that they are criticizing what's happening today, but a return to the past is not on, as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
That was Professor Raymond Suttner speaking to Crema Media's Polity about his latest column titled, If Zuma is Staying Put, What Happens Now?